everyone, welcome back to the garden. Today we're talking about those fall garden jobs. What to do in the garden from September onwards to prepare for winter, but also look ahead to the new season. At the end of September or the beginning of October, in my area, temperatures are still very high. So it means my garden is still full of gorgeous blooms. We have sedums at their best right now. Asters also are shining. Of course, dahlias are still producing a ton of blooms. Roses also are benefiting from slightly cooler temperatures, so the garden is still brimming with life. So it's important to keep deadheading and keep harvesting your flowers so that you get even more. Your cut and come again flowers like cosmos, like zinnias, like dahlias will benefit from being deadheaded and the flowers being harvested regularly to keep encouraging production. And those flowers will keep going until the frosts. At the same time, it's worth keeping in mind that it's also a great time to start collecting seeds. And that means leaving some blooms to ripen and form seeds. So this is what I've done on a couple of my plants, specifically sweet peas and cosmos, and also some scabiosa. I've just let some plants run to seed so that I could collect them, harvest them, and then resow them next year. It's pretty easy. All you need to do is wait until the seeds are dried and turn brown, and then typically that would mean that they are ripe. You can harvest them, leave them to dry for a little while, and then store them in some paper envelopes in a cool, dark, dry place, and they should keep for a couple of years. If you want to be able to perpetuate your crop, make sure to pick non-hybrid varieties or heirloom seeds. That way, the seed that you collect will be the same as the parent plant. Don't forget to label them so you remember exactly which varieties you harvested. There's a range of annuals and biannuals that you can get away with sowing now to get a head start on the new season. And you can also, of course, continue sowing things like winter salads or Swiss chard or kale or any of those winter and early spring crops. If, like me, you have a restricted space, you can use those winter crops as winter bedding. There's something fun to look at. It will keep your space productive. This is why I added some cabbage and kohlrabi starts in the garden. I'm hoping I can get produce out of them, but otherwise it just helps me fill the gap until my spring bulb show. A couple of weeks ago also I had sowed some dwarf runner beans, hoping that I could get one last crop. I do see some flowers on the plant, so let's see if we can get some beans. Otherwise, at least it's still bringing me that late color that we all want and crave in the garden. This year, I'm also trying to take cuttings. This is something I don't have a lot of experience with, so I hope it's going to work. I'm trying that on my rosemary, but if you have things also like hydrangeas, for example, or tender salvias, you could try to take cuttings now, as you tidy things in your garden. So all you need is a compost mix that's quite airy and cutting off of a vigorous growth. You strip the bottom and you put several starts into a pot, water from the top, and hopefully in a couple of weeks those cuttings will start rooting and then form some plants. So I'll report back after to do that with some rosemary. We'll see if it works, and I think that could be a lovely gift to give over Christmas. If you have cuttings that are rooted and are ready to go, that could be something lovely to give to someone else, a plant from your garden. Fall is an amazing time to move plants or to plant up some new borders. Because temperatures are cooling, it's not going to be such a stress on plants. They're also going to wake up nicely established in spring in their final position where they would have had all fall and winter to grow their root systems. So it's typically recommended at this time of year to be planting up new borders. You can purchase small plug plants that will grow well and perform very well for you come spring. I actually went to a nearby plant fair a couple of weeks ago and found some beautiful shrubs. Everything is so glorious. I've also added some Japanese anemones. They're amazing plants for fall. They bloom really beautifully and are loved by pollinators. And they should also spread very nicely. So I'm hoping this is exactly what they do. It's also almost bare root season. So for roses or trees, it's typically recommended to order them bare root. They establish very well that way, and also it's more cost effective. A couple of years ago, I purchased some shrub roses and also some climbing roses, bare root from David Austin, and I've had great luck with them. They establish really quickly, bloomed profusely in their first year, so I cannot recommend you more ordering your bare root plants. I think bare root season is from November all the way to March, so you have plenty of time to order and then get everything settled. So I highly recommend you purchasing bare root plants. At least roses for me worked really well. And it's also recommended for trees because again, it's cheaper and it increases the chance of your plants establishing or your trees establishing in your gardens. And right now is a really good time to be installing them into your space. What do you see from up there? It's time to think about your spring display. Spring bulbs should be planted in autumn for a spring display, so it's time now to order and to start planting your spring bulbs. Wait until temperatures are a little bit cooler for tulips, so typically November, to reduce the chance of a fungi taking hold, which is called tulip fire and will cause your tulips not to bloom properly. So just wait a little bit longer, but anything else can start going in the ground. So for me, I typically wait until I can plant everything, so I do all my planting in one fell swoop. If it's going to be your first year planting tulips, or you want to know all the secrets to, for example, get your tulips blooming longer, head over to my Tulip Planting Must Know Part 2 video. I just published it and I'm answering all the most asked questions about tulip planting, so I hope you found it helpful. Of course, the housekeeping needs to continue, so training your climbing roses or any vining plants exactly how you want it on its growth support is key so that it will go through winter without breakage in case of winds or anything else. Just secure this new growth, so again, you'll have plenty of blooms next year. So if you have some evergreen clematis, for example, or your wisteria, just make sure to train that so, well, one, it looks good over winter, and two, it gets protected. If you sowed a wildflower meadow or kept your grass long over the summer, now is the time to cut it back. As soon as your flowers set seed and a time to self-sow, I really advise you to cut it back before the rainy season, before that grass gets really wet and heavy, because then it gets very, very difficult to get it back. It did happen to me a few years ago. I just, let it go. That wasn't the right thing to do, because that long grass then becomes really wet. It covers the ground, so it also kills off any new shoots of grass that would want to grow. Get after your meadow, cut it back, and get that grass short over winter, and then it will start growing again come spring. If you grew pumpkins or winter squashes, you might also have a few that are ready to harvest now. There's a couple of things you can do to check whether a pumpkin is ripe. You can check the stem. Typically it needs to be brown. It has to also be of the right color. But generally, if your vine is completely dead, that means it's time to harvest. There's not going to be much more energy that can go into your fruits. You can leave them to cure for a couple of weeks, remove any dirt on them, and you should have pumpkins that store very well for a few months. This year, sadly, we couldn't grow anything in the garden, but a couple of years ago we did have a wonderful harvest. I hope you're harvesting your own pumpkins because they're amazing to decorate with. And generally it's recommended to keep up with housekeeping. There's a couple of plants that could deal with a light prune. It's good to pick up the leaves also, and you can pile them up in a corner for wildlife to enjoy. Generally keep weeding your bed so that nothing gets out of hand for spring. Top up mulch if needed, so again, you keep that moisture in the ground and suppress any weed growth. Just those general things that you have to keep doing throughout the year. Your shrubs and perennials will benefit from fertilizing. There's still a good few months of warm soil temperatures where root growth can be encouraged, again, to make sure the plants have the best chance of going through winter. So don't forget to fertilize if you can. For lawn care also, it's typically a great time of year to aerate your lawn, so you can use a specific lawn aerator for that if you have a large surface, or simply use a fork. Make the lawn breathe. You can also rake it to remove any moss, any debris. Of course, weed it. Anything that you remove now won't be such an issue come spring. And just generally, it's a good time to do lawn care, so fertilize and maintain it. It might look a little bit bare afterwards, but you could also do your repairs now, so sow some seeds or anything else that you want the area to turn into. So I have a couple of areas in the garden where I keep the grass longer, and I'm gonna cut it. I think one of the last mows for us is gonna be in November, just to keep everything neat and tidy over winter. One last job that needs to be tackled now would be to cut hedges. Right now, nesting season is well over and it's safe again to be cutting hedges. So I've started the process in the garden. It's the first year we have, such extensive edging. So I don't have a power tool yet. I'm just using, regular pairs of pruners or garden shears, and it's not going to be the perfect job, but at least for now I can get rid of that tremendous summer growth and get things a bit neater before the cool weather hits. Let me know if there's anything else you're doing in your fall gardens to get it ready for winter, but also to prepare for the new season. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye! Roosting chicken number 1, female. Sushi, about 2 years old. Hi, the little owl pair. Hi, baby. Hi, do you want to say hi to everybody? You're helping Mama? You're so antsy.